When I first started running, I did what most people do. I thought more was better. So in this video, I'm gonna talk about my biggest running mistake, why it was bad, and how I would go about it if I was starting again from now. I started getting more into running after Hyrox came on the scene, and I was getting quite into it. I'd done quite a lot of CrossFit training, and I was pretty decent in the gym, had a pretty decent physique at the time as well. But then I wanted to get better at running so I could be a little bit more competitive at Hyrox. And to be honest, I was just enjoying the feeling of getting better at something. And in a way, I actually thought it was more convenient because I didn't have to get out to the gym every day. I could actually just leave the door and go for my run, and training was done. Now, the biggest mistake that I made is that when I started, my weekly mileage, my total number of kilometers I was doing every single week went up rapidly. I went from 0 to 20K in the space of like a week, and then I was doing 30K plus over the next couple of weeks. And literally I went from number of weeks to kilometers, straight up, no chill, right in there, when what I should have done is I should have just gradually increased it over the course of the coming weeks. The golden rule is you probably shouldn't increase your mileage or your total number of kilometers that you're running by 10% every single week. So if you ran 10K one week, you should try not to run more than 11K the next week, and so on and so forth. The reason for this is because you haven't really earned the right to run that sort of distance. Now, I'm not telling you that you can't go and do it. You can go and put in big shifts of lots of kilometers in the space of a week, but your body's not gonna thank you for it, which is exactly what happened to me, which was the mistake. I ended up with a bit of a calf injury purely just from overuse. My calves were not used to taking that load and pounding the pavement for that many reps, that number of times a week. And ultimately, it then put me out of running for a few weeks because I just had to let that settle. Now, to avoid that altogether, you want to steadily increase your mileage. Another thing was that my strength absolutely plummeted. That is meant to be a barbell, by the way, showing big weights to small weights. Because I was running so much far too soon, my legs were just fatigued all the time. And actually, when I went into the gym, I couldn't lift what I was usually lifting because my legs were done, which then meant I got weaker because I couldn't put the right amount of stimulus on my body to not get stronger, but barely even maintain the strength that I had. So I noticed that when I was in the gym, I was actually getting weaker, and fuck that. Nobody wants to get weaker, so that wasn't very good, all because I increased my mileage far too soon. And a third thing was my energy absolutely crashed. I was going out and I was running maybe 4 or 5 times a week on top of trying to do my gym sessions. Now, don't get me wrong, I did have the knowledge and the logic to eat a little bit more food, but I think at the same time, I was also thinking, oh, you know, maybe those will help me get a bit leaner, kind of build out the physique that I want even more. So I'm gonna put myself into more of a deficit and not really eat back too many calories, which ended up, shock, with my energy absolutely crashing because I was new to balancing the whole, here's how I'm running, here's what my lifting's like, how should my nutrition now match that? And I didn't really give it too much thought. I kind of just dove into the deep end and I paid for it by energy crashing. So whatever you do, please make sure that you follow this green line and make sure that you're gradually increasing your distance over the course of a few weeks and you're not just ramping it up like I did. Because what we really want is to be in the hybrid athlete zone. Now, to me, this is where we can run effectively and efficiently. We can feel like we're getting fitter and faster pretty much on a weekly basis, but we can also maintain and improve our strength. We can maintain and actually improve the way we look, our aesthetic, and then we're obviously fueling for that to happen. Now, when it comes to how many times a week you want to be running, if you're looking to balance all of this stuff together, it kind of depends on how many times a week you can train in total. I'm going to use an example of saying you can train 4 times a week for this one. So if that's the case, you probably want to run twice a week. And in those 2 running sessions, then one of them should be an easy run where you're just trying to clock up some easy kilometers, nothing crazy. One of them probably would be a speed session where we're trying to work on running at certain paces, hitting certain times, all the fun stuff. Your other 2 sessions of the week will focus on strength. Now, it's really important for these strength-based sessions that you do keep the intensity there. That's probably another semi-mistake that I made, is that because I was running so much and I was fatigued, I was kind of letting myself off the hook a little bit by lowering the weights, whereas actually if I had powered on through and not let my mind beat me from time to time, I maybe would have kept on a little bit more strength. Don't get me wrong, I still did way too much volume way too soon, but that is something to consider. So if you're training 4 times a week, I would say 1 easy run, 1 fast run, 2 strength sessions where you're really hitting intensity. Now, if you only want to run once a week, I would say 3 strength sessions where you hit intensity, probably full body sessions, and then I would do 1 run a week. And if you're only running once, I would probably prioritize the speed session in this case. Now, the third aspect that we cannot ignore is obviously going to be fueling. Now, what we want to make sure is we're eating for performance. Now, if you have an aesthetic-based goal alongside that, which most of the guys and girls we work with at Jacked, they have that. It's important that we work together to understand how they're feeling on a weekly basis, what their calorie output is like, and then we can monitor and adjust their calorie intake as needed to suit the level of training they've got, right? You could have the exact same person, but if one person is just training in the gym, doing full body 3 times a week, and the other person is training in the gym 3 times a week and doing 3 runs, let's say, they're obviously gonna need different amounts of food to get the same result aesthetically. So it's important that we're eating for performance. And then you can put a little asterisk there and say, if you have an aesthetic goal, you're gonna manipulate this slightly, but we don't wanna go too aggressive there because you're probably gonna lead to burnout and potentially lead to an energy crash like I did. Now, we also wanna make sure that we're tracking recovery, because if you are feeling quite under-recovered, it's likely, yes, you're potentially overtraining a little bit, but probably more so, it's the fact that you're not fueling appropriately. So we wanna make sure that we're fueling appropriately for that. Now, the whole message in this entire video that I want you to walk away with is that, I've already said it, you need to earn the right to run more. When I first started running, I had no business trying to increase my mileage 20, 30, 40K every single week. What I needed to do was gradually increase it over the course of the coming weeks so that I earned the right to run. Now, when I say that, I kind of just mean, look, you could go out and you could smash the runs you need to smash right now, but you might get calf niggles, you might get strength reductions, you might see an energy crash. Maybe for you it's your hip, maybe for you it's your knee, whatever it is, something is probably gonna go wrong. So what we need to do is slowly increase our weekly mileage and intensity so that we avoid all of that. And then gradually by doing that, you earn the right. Your body will adapt to the mileage that you're doing. And then if you increase it a little bit, it's not gonna cause you any issues. So guys, if you have enjoyed this video, if it was helpful, be sure to like it, leave me a comment below. We'd massively appreciate it, and keep posted for the next one.